Welcome back to the 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Remember the tragedy of September 11th, 2001.
Honoring the memory of the innocent lives we lost.
Freedom is not free, and we must keep fighting.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for 17 News at Noon. I'm Maddie Jansen, in today for Nicole Gitsky. Today marks 19 years since the terror attacks of September 11th, 2001, one of the darkest days in American history. All over the country, Americans are pausing to remember the nearly 3,000 lives lost that day and the thousands who died from illness and the wars that followed. Today, local first responders paid their respects to the victims of the 9/11 attacks at Bakersfield Fire Station 15. They stood alongside a steel girder from one of the World Trade Center towers. It was moved to Bakersfield 4 years ago, traveling nearly 3,000 miles from New York City. And now it stands in its new home between Bakersfield Fire Station 15 and the Bakersfield Police Substation on Buena Vista Road, a reminder of the 2,977 lives lost on September 11th, and a reminder to those who risk their own lives every day. 9 firefighters from Kern County Fire and Bakersfield Fire Departments were deployed in the wake of the attacks.
Clay Patrick Farr, Army. Brian Freeman, Army.
Meantime, the names of Kern's fallen service members were read in a hero's roll call this morning at the Portrait of a Warrior Gallery in downtown Bakersfield. Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy spoke about the impact of the attacks on our community and our country.
The 9/11 attacks reshaped our country in the course of history. In New York, Arlington, and yes, right here in Bakersfield, our lives and the lives of future generations were altered forever by that infamous day. We talk about never forgetting, but we really talk about always remembering.
The Portrait of a Warrior Gallery is in downtown Bakersfield at 1925 Ice Street, and they are open until 3 today. The gallery features the portraits of 41 post-9/11 warriors from Kern County who were killed in action or died as a result of wounds suffered on the battlefield. Early in the morning at Kern Valley High School, a command post for the Creek Fire. Before beginning their day on the fire lines, firefighters from all over the country paused this morning to remember the attacks.
There's always a connection with other first responders, whether that's firefighters or law enforcement. The duties of our job include, putting your life at risk and trying to make a difference and impact the lives of somebody else that's in need.
Ceremonies have been happening across the country today, but because of the global pandemic, they look a lot different this year. NBC's Chris Pallone reports.
In Lower Manhattan, a city which promised to never forget, paused to remember. Keeping alive the memories of the nearly 3,000 people who died in the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, the heroic rescuers who died trying to save them, and those who have passed in the years since from exposure to the toxic chemicals that engulfed the area for months.
Michael Rourke Andrews.
But this year, the remembrances are different. COVID-19 forcing crowd sizes to be limited, hand sanitizer and masks plentiful. Vice President Mike Pence and Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden attended the Ground Zero service, where organizers decided for the first time not to have family members read the names of all the fallen in order to maintain social distancing.
Luis Alfonso Chimbo.
That decision spurred a charity group to hold a separate commemoration with family members reading the names live just steps away.
For the families, loved ones, and friends they left behind.
At the Pentagon, Secretary of Defense Mark Esper attended a wreath laying dedicated to the 184 people who died there. A giant American flag covered the spot where the hijacked plane crashed into the building. And in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, President Trump joined the family members of people who died on United Flight 93 for a private memorial service.
To the family members of Flight 93, today every heartbeat in America is wedded to yours. Your pain and anguish is the shared grief of our whole nation.
Christine Burton Basmajan.
Across the nation, people keeping their promise to never forget. by pausing to remember. Chris Pallone, NBC News.
And tonight at sundown, 2 blue beams of light will shoot into the sky from lower Manhattan and remain on until sunrise in memory of the victims of 9/11. Officials had planned to scrap the tribute in light because of the social distancing concerns, but reversed their decision after widespread criticism. And a reminder of some other local events that you can participate in to remember those we lost on 9/11. The Armed Forces Support Foundation is holding a flower lane today, and you can take part. Here's how. Go to the drive-thru they have set up at Bakersfield Harley-Davidson from noon to 7:30 p.m., grab a flower, and then take it down to the Veterans Memorial. Again, that is at 515 Truxton Avenue. You can lay the flower at the foot of the memorial and stand for a moment in silence for those who have died. There are many more local events happening today. For a complete list with details on how to participate, visit our website, kget.com, and click the hot link icon. The Creek Fire burning east of Fresno has now burned more than 175,000 acres. Officials say it is still growing. Officials say the fire is burning toward the south into Fresno County communities of Meadow Lake and Toll House. The growth rate has slowed, but because of the massive amount of smoke in the air, only 1 or 2 helicopters can fly into the fire zone to make drops at a time. It is now 6% contained. Take a look at the Bobcat fire burning in the Angeles National Forest near Azusa. It's exploded in size to more than 26,000 acres, and it is only 6% contained. All 18 national forests in California, including the Angeles National Forest, are closed due to fire conditions. Welcome back. And the latest on the coronavirus here in Kern County. The Kern County Public Health Department reported 15 new COVID-19 deaths and 123 new cases this morning. These bring the county's total to more than 30,500 cases and 322 deaths. The department's reporting that more than 14,000 people have recovered from the virus. More than 3,000 are presumed recovered. 150 people are currently being treated in local hospitals. Police are looking for the shooter or shooters who fired at a man driving in South Bakersfield. It happened around 10:30 last night near the In-N-Out restaurant on Panama Lane near Colony Street. According to police, the man was driving a Dodge Challenger when another car pulled up alongside him and someone started shooting. BPD says neither the driver nor the passenger was hit. The suspect vehicle is only described as a gold or tan car, but if you have information, call BPD at 327-7111. All right, it is finally Friday. We're taking a look outside. It looks like an overcast, kind of beachy day, and it was actually even kind of cool this morning when I stepped outside, Kev.
Yeah, I would take the fog over the smoke, and the one thing you're noticing here on the hour-by-hour forecast is we're not going to warm up too much today into those 90s. This morning we thought maybe upper 80s, but the smoke has gotten a little bit thicker, and that is going to bring our temperatures down a little bit. Right now, Bakersfield sitting at 73 degrees, a southwest wind at 3, still holding on to that 5 miles visibility. And yesterday, we hit 85 because of that smoke layer. We should be right around 91 this time of year, and our record of 107 set back in 1899. Here's a look at the temperatures. We've got 70s in the valley and into the mountains, and guess what? Out in the desert as well, except Ridgecrest checking in at 81 degrees right now. Temperatures right now running in the 70s Sacramento, 73 in Fresno, down to the south, 70s as well, 81 in Vegas. Our temperature change, we're down 6 degrees right now from where we were yesterday at this time, and again, the influence of that is a system to the east of us, but also the real influence of that is the smoke. We're up about 3 degrees in Los Angeles and Las Vegas, up 2 degrees. And temperatures today will be reaching the upper 80s in Fresno. They're seeing the effects of the smoke. And 92 in Vegas, and then 70s down in LA and San Diego. Here's a look at what we're seeing, and we're still tracking this area of low pressure to the east. We still have that northeasterly flow kind of in place, and that's pushing that smoke from the north to the south. And then we've got some ridging offshore. We'll see a little bit of a warm up this weekend. Another trough is developing west of that, and that will affect our weather as we head into next week. Here's a look at the daytime highs for today. 88 in Bakersfield, 87 in Delano. We'll look at 86 out in Maricopa, so mid to upper 80s today. For the mountains, 79 in Frazier Park, 81 in Tehachapi, with 80s to lower 90s into the Kern River Valley. Look for that wind out of the northwest 10 to 15. And then out in the desert, we're looking at 90 in Mojave. Here's a look at that extended forecast for you, and you'll see for the weekend, 92 tomorrow. Again, these temperatures are all really dependent on how much smoke gets pushed from the north down to the south here into the valley, but we're looking at lower 90s tomorrow, 90s through at least next Wednesday, upper 80s on Thursday. For the mountains, we'll look at 80s across the board here. Lower 80s come back into play next Thursday. And then for the Kern River Valley, we're in the 90s heading into your weekend with that smoke still lingering. And then by next Thursday, we're in the upper 80s. And you could actually hear my throat kind of cut off a minute. The smoke is just awful and affecting all of us. So if you are going to be out and about, make sure they're in small periods of time because the air quality is definitely not in our favor.
No. All right. Thanks, Kev.
Yep.
Today, a major West Coast drive-through coffee chain arrives in Northeast Bakersfield, and by the looks of it, the community couldn't wait to try it. Dutch Brothers is founded mostly here on the West Coast. It opened its doors, or rather windows, this morning to Bakersfield residents. It's located on Columbus Street near Haley Street in the same plaza as Lowe's.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Noon.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.